Hi, I'm Tyson with Adventure Rig, and Callie and I are currently out here on a climbing/camping trip. We've brought with us the MSR front range insert, as well as the front range tarp shelter, which fits over this entire insert. So the two go kind of hand in hand, or obviously you can use them separately, but I'm gonna talk about this insert first since we have it here out, and then I'm gonna put the tarp shelter over the top of it, and I'm gonna show you what that's all about, because these are both really cool in their own ways. To start with, what you can see here again is this insert. Obviously it has 4 sides of mesh to it, which is very cool. So it feels like you're out sleeping underneath the stars, but you're keeping out the bugs, the mosquitoes, the gnats, the flies, all that stuff that you don't want on you in the middle of the night. They're staying far away from you. However, you still clearly get the sky views that everyone wants. Also, what really sets this apart, the obvious. What is this going vertically? So this is how the tent stands up. It's not a freestanding tent, meaning that it takes its own poles. You can set them up. You don't need to stake it down and the whole thing stands. That's not what this is. This you need to stake into the ground, and you need this pole in the center to actually make the entire system work. Now, the pole that Callie and I have used, because we're on a climbing trip, this is actually just a stick clip for clipping high first bolts if you're out rock climbing. It's 5 feet long or just over. It's adjustable, so it's easy to stick right in the center, prop up the middle of the tent, stake the sides. We have our shelter and we're good to go. Now, you can also use things such as trekking poles or ski poles. MSR also does sell their own 5-foot pole for this tent separately if you don't have anything to actually put into it, but you still want to use this system. This is the largest tent that Callie and I have tried. It's coming in at a 4-person tent. It's great because we can easily fit myself and Callie, as well as our dog Hank, and then have plenty of room for gear. Or if we had more friends, we could fit 4 people into it. This measures 88 inches from one corner to the other, and it's completely square, so from that corner to the back, it's also 88 inches wide. Now what that means is that our pole is about 1 inch in diameter, so from the edge of the pole to the edge of the tent only gives us about 43 inches. This is important because if you have a pad, like Callie and I currently have pads that are 24 inches wide, well, that's not quite wide enough to lay the 2 pads side by side in between the pole and the wall. So the pads actually have to overlap just a little bit. Definitely something to think about if you're wanting to use this. It's not the end of the world, but it is kind of annoying. However, there are pads out there that aren't 24 inches wide and they're a lot narrower, which then you're not going to have a problem. Also, if you're using just the shelter that goes over this and you're not actually using this insert, I'll touch on that. The shelter's 108 inches wide, so it's actually quite a bit wider than this insert. At that point, a 24-inch pad is easily going to fit because there is quite a bit more room inside of it. Now, if I open this tent up, you can see that I have one vertical zipper as well as this zipper that runs horizontally. It's great because I can easily roll up this mesh door, and then it includes a clip to keep it out of the way, and you can get in and out of the tent easily with the door out of the way. I do want to mention something though about getting in and out of the tent easily, because I don't love how there's only one opening for this entire tent. I'd like to see a zipper going down this side of the floor as well, because if you have 4 people in here, you've got the person sleeping here. In order for them to get out, they're going to have to crawl over this person, and then the person that's sleeping here, they're going to have to crawl on top of them to actually get out of the tent. Now the shelter, when I put that on, you can see that does work a little bit differently, but you can easily open up the entire front of that shelter to get in and out of that very easily. Now inside the tent does have 2 pockets. One mesh that's sewn into the side right here, and then basically kitty corner from that going to that side over there is another mesh pocket. It's big enough you could easily fit a couple cell phones, some extra batteries to charge phones, charge headlamps, that kind of stuff. However, in general, in my opinion, I find that it's kind of lacking some pockets because it only has those two. For something that's this large, just 2 pockets, it leaves a lot of stuff kind of strewn about on the floor, and I find I'm always searching for things because I don't have enough pockets. Also, what I found is up here at the top or even along the seams, there are not any points to connect anything or hang anything. It would be great if we could hang a light or a lantern, headlamp, anything like that would be awesome to hang it from the top here. However, they have not included anything sewn into the tent to actually do that. I find that's a little bit of a drawback just because then, again, I'm putting lights on the floor or I'm having to keep them on my head when it would be a lot easier just to hang it. Now, with that said, it is a little bit minimalist and they've kept the size and the weight down. So when it's fully packed, you can see that it's only measures about 12 inches long by 5 inches in diameter. And at its minimum weight, it's only coming in at 1 pound, 15 ounces. So for 4 people, that's not very much weight. However, that is just the insert. So we still have to talk about the shelter that goes over the top of it, which is going to add just a little bit of weight. You do see that it does have this kind of weird looking chimney thing here. The reason that that sits so high is because when you put the shelter fly over the top of this, they want to keep that fly off of this mesh material so that you don't get any condensation transferring from the fly onto the mesh, keeping you dry the entire time. The floor is really burly. It is this bathtub design, keeping the seams up off of the ground so that you don't get any water intrusion if you, for some reason, camp in a creek and it starts flowing in the middle of the night. Now, this material is their Extreme Shield polyurethane with their DWR coating. Again, it's going to keep you dry, and it has this ripstop material in it, basically giving you a lot of years of use and abuse. Last couple things to mention here is that the inside height to about this peak is 56 inches. This is awesome because if you're changing inside the tent, you're putting your arms up or you're kneeling, you have a ton of room to do that in. Also, you do have 4 stakes, 1 in each corner. It does come with the stakes. I do like the stakes that MSR has sent with this tent. They're pretty burly, so if you're having to kind of pound them into the ground a little bit, they're not going to bend very easily. The last thing worth mentioning with this insert is that there are not any external guy lines that you can actually stake down to the ground. So if it gets extremely windy, I don't think that this insert is actually going to ever blow over, but there's not anything that you can add to it to give it a little bit more rigidity. Now I'm going to throw the tarp shelter on over right now. That does have a lot of external points, so you can get that rigidity if you need it. But with the insert, what you see is what you get. So let's grab that shelter. We're going to throw that on and we're going to dive into that next. Things are starting to get spicy. You can see that we have now added the front range tarp shelter over top the front range insert. Now I'm going to unzip it. We're going to talk about some features on the inside with the insert and stuff, but I want to talk about some stuff on the outside first. So before I installed this, I had talked about with the insert not being able to add external guy lines if the weather gets really nasty. That's not the case with the shelter. They have added a lot of points of contact for this if you find yourself in the NAR. You can see here that on each corner, running up to the top of the tent, there's going to be a loop sewn into the seam. So there's going to be 4 of those. You can add guy lines out from each corner to stake it down even a little bit more. Also, in the front here, you've got this one because of the door. However, you still have 3 more on the other sides to, again, add guy lines and stake it down and really build the strength on this shelter. One thing to note is that they don't actually include the stakes or the cord to reinforce this if the weather does get really bad. The exterior is also coated with that Extreme Shield like the bathtub floor, giving you that nice waterproof coating. It is also a ripstop material. Now you can see that this is nice and tall. I'm 6 feet tall out here. It's not that much shorter to the very tip-top peak. Now what's usable is going to be roughly about 64 inches, so it's slightly taller than the insert that we have on the inside. Now if I open this up, this is where things get really fun. If I roll this door back and clip it to the side where it's out of the way, I can easily get in and out of the tent. However, if I roll this door back as well, just by simply undoing the cord from the stake, I can roll it back, and at this point, I'm turning this shelter into a party tent. This is a huge opening right here. I mean, if you could imagine not having the insert inside right now, this is a full 108 inches by 108 inches. You could almost dance inside of this. You could definitely dance if you weren't on your feet, you were on your knees. There's plenty of room to dance. Why I like this shelter as well is because if Callie and I are doing trips to the Boundary Waters, it's great to have just a shelter like this where if you wanted to put chairs, if it's raining, you still want to sit around though, you could easily throw camp chairs inside of here. You could eat, prepare meals, that kind of stuff very easily inside of this shelter. It's just really large. It's also super easy to set up. Again, if you just have the one pole, 4 stakes, 5th including the door, you're good to go. I mean, you could use this as an emergency shelter if you're just by yourself and you just want to take something small and light. This comes in at its minimum weight at 1 pound, 10 ounces. Again, very similar to its pack size of 12 inches long and 5 inches in diameter. However, if you threw this into a compression sack, I do think you could get it a little bit smaller. For 4 people, there is plenty of room throughout this tent. Now, one thing to mention here is that if you have the insert in and then you have the shelter over it, you do have almost a foot of room right here. And so it obviously does not have a vestibule or anything like that, but you could throw shoes, a small pack, something like that that needs to stay dry if it were to rain. You can definitely fit something like that on the ground between the two. Now the shelter itself, you can see it doesn't have any external windows. The one downside to this that I've found is that in the morning, having this all closed up, if the sun's not actually shining directly on it like it is now, but it's just kind of coming up over the horizon, it's still quite dark inside. It doesn't give you that really bright feeling where it wants to wake you up first thing in the morning. Maybe you like to sleep in. That could be a plus. For me, I like when the sun's shining in my eyes and I get up when the sun comes up. This does do a great job of shielding the sun though, because you don't necessarily get that feeling. Now on the very back, it does have a vent located back there so that if you have 4 people in here, it's a large vent, you can easily get the airflow moving through this shelter. Callie and I have been very impressed with the front range insert as well as the shelter. Again, this is our first time using something like this where it's not freestanding and it requires this pole in the center. I wasn't really sure what to expect with it, and I thought maybe it would be more cumbersome than it is. However, it's easy to set up, it's quick, it's lightweight. If you have 4 people, you can easily divide the shelter from the insert, and then if you're trekking or you're skiing, you're already going to have your poles with you. Also, if you just wanted to use this in the winter, you didn't want to bring the insert, you can easily set this up, lay your pads out, put sleeping bags on top of them, and you are completely sheltered from the elements. It's really a great all-around system that, again, Callie and I have been very impressed with, and I think it's something that we are going to get a lot of use out of. Again, if I haven't said it enough, this is the front range insert as well as the front range tarp shelter. These are sold separately as 2 different pieces and they're made by MSR. Callie and I sure do appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions about them, please leave it in the comments section below and we'll get back to you. Also, if you're wondering where we are or what we're up to, please check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Adventure Rig. If you guys like these videos, we'd love it if you subscribed as well as give us a thumbs up. Thanks again for watching. I'm Tyson with Adventure Rig.